It's time for us to have a serious conversation about artificial intelligence. I don't know how deeply immersed you are in the topic of artificial intelligence. Do you read the news? Do you follow the series that's unfolding in Silicon Valley? Or are you not? Do you understand where this is going? So, let's start by looking at what artificial intelligence is already capable of. Without anyone noticing, smart speakers have learned to understand and talk to us. Search engines recognize even strangest unspecific queries. Music services make an endless playlist based on your preferences. Social networks constantly offer interesting content. Navigators plot routes in a second. In addition, artificial intelligence is sometimes better at making diagnoses, helping to determine the structure of proteins and analyze tomograms, perfectly predicting the weather, and writing theses. It is used in government security systems, in facial recognition systems, and ChatGPT, which you are likely to use. Writes texts, poems, songs in the style of any writer and poet programs, explains memes, can make a business plan, and even consult as a psychologist. Neural networks generate images and videos, facilitate the workflow of game designers. Artificial intelligence can win at chess just as it can win at Go. Artificial intelligence also leaves no stone unturned in cybersports disciplines. Artificial intelligence thinks and analyzes faster, never forgets anything, plans wonderfully, speaks more intelligently, draws better. Artificial intelligence is sometimes more pleasant than humans in communication. At the same time, pervasive artificial intelligence is starting to scare people more and more. The fear of machine rebellion has been cultivated in society for decades. In reality, the story of artificial intelligence turns out to be much more complex and interesting than in fiction. What if I told you that there is nothing scary about artificial intelligence? After all, it's just a tool. Tools go through stages of evolution too, and modern professionals who are afraid of losing their jobs just need to keep up with the times and utilize the available technology. That is, generate, and generate again. Artificial intelligence is a breakthrough technology. Maybe not very favorable for those who are engaged in, for example, creativity, but only for a short distance. No one will take away a sheet of paper from a person. You can create if you want. With artificial intelligence, on the contrary, everything is good. And in some number of years, we may well find ourselves in a world where there are 3 or maybe 4 days off a week. But then, why are so many people talking about the dangers of artificial intelligence? Why so many words, so much speculation? Why is the US convening Congress on the safety of artificial intelligence? What do they all fear? In general, everyone is afraid of what is commonly called the beautiful-sounding word singularity. In this big issue, we're going to talk about the singularity. In addition, I will tell you why the singularity is not really the main problem. It's problem number 2. There's a bigger problem, problem number 1. If you like what I'm doing, please give me a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, share this video with your loved ones. I'll get a lot of support from that. We will talk about problem number 1, the main problem, in the second part of the issue. For now, let's deal with what the singularity is. The technological singularity is the moment when technological development becomes fundamentally unmanageable and irreversible. Simply put, it is the moment when artificial intelligence goes out of control. Experts around the world are concerned about the emergence of superintelligence, as it could lead to the largest man-made catastrophe ever seen on Earth. Artificial intelligence is potentially more dangerous than a thermonuclear bomb. We are on the threshold of a change comparable to the emergence of human life on Earth. Werner Vinge. Imagine the reaction of an 18th century man to all the technical magic that scientific and technological progress has given us. We can't understand what it would be like for him to see iron chariots weighing a ton rushing along perfectly smooth roads, to see people talking to each other using strange rectangles of glass, to see more people in motley clothes running around a bright green lawn or a virtual world on glass. He would most likely, upon seeing how we live, pass out. Bring him to his senses. Tell him what the largest library in human history, the internet, can do, or what the ISS, the Large Hadron Collider, nuclear weapons, and the general theory of relativity are, and his heart will definitely fail. Human progress is happening faster and faster as time passes. The more advanced the civilization, the more inventions and discoveries appear. The accumulative effect of knowledge is at work. This effect is what futurologist and important figure in this issue, Raymond Kurzweil, called the law of accelerating returns of human history. A developed society has the ability to progress at a faster rate than a less developed one. Humanity in the 19th century knew more and had better technology compared to humanity in the 15th century, for example. So it's not surprising that humanity made many more discoveries, made more progress in the 19th century than in the 15th century. In terms of, as we would say now, the number of patents. The average rate of development between, for example, 1985 and 2015 was higher than between 1955 and 1985. There have been many more changes in the last 30 years than in the previous 30, so progress is accelerating. Kurzweil suggests that the progress of the entire 20th century would have been achieved in just 20 years, at the rate of development of the 2000th century. In other words, the rate of progress in the year 2000 would have been 5 times higher than the average rate of progress during the 20th century. Overall, because of the law of accelerating returns, Kurzweil believes that 21st century people will experience 1,000 times more technological breakthroughs than 20th century people. But who is Raymond Kurzweil? He's an American inventor and futurologist. He started inventing things as a teenager, and in the following 10 years, he made some cool things. For example, the first text-to-speech scanner, allowing the blind to read, and the music synthesizer, the first real electric piano. On top of that, he's the author of 5 best-selling books. Ray, as you may have realized by now, is known for his predictions. In the late 80s, when the internet was still a little known, unknown technology, he claimed that by the early 2000s, it would become a global phenomenon. The Wall Street Journal called Kurzweil a restless genius. Forbes called him a perfect thinking machine. Inc. Edison's rightful heir. This is the best person I know at predicting the future of artificial intelligence. Bill Gates. In 2011, he co-founded Singularity University. In 2012, Google co-founder Larry Page approached Kurzweil and asked him to become Google's engineering director. Not bad for one lifetime, and it's not hard to see why he has such a large number of passionate followers known as Singularitarians. It's a movement defined by the belief that a technological singularity, the creation of superintelligence, is likely to occur in the medium term, and that deliberate action should be taken to ensure that the singularity benefits humans. Singularitarians differ from other futurists, who speculate on the technological singularity in their belief that the singularity is not only possible, but desirable, if guided by reason. Accordingly, they are obliged to devote their lives to actions that they believe will facilitate the rapid but safe realization of artificial intelligence. Kurzweil's followers are certainly not sectarians, but in the future, we may see the first cults and religions in history whose sacred texts will be written by non-human intelligence. Yuval Noah Harari, a man who hardly needs an introduction, told a conference in Switzerland. According to Harari, artificial intelligence has crossed a new frontier in mastering human language, and from now on, it can influence the formation of Homo sapiens, culture, and manipulate people, as prophets, politicians, and poets have done for thousands of years. While we are on the topic of religion and technology, the digitalization and even robotization of religious life and the use of artificial intelligence in liturgical practice is not new. We know, for example, about the work of a monk singing mantras and telling the basics of Buddhism in a temple in Beijing, about a robot priest greeting in 5 languages and blessing parishioners in Wittenberg, where in October 1517, Martin Luther hung his 95 anti-papal theses on the church door, and thus opened the beginning of the Reformation. But the problem of the church in the digital age is deeper and more interesting than these amusing examples. Faith in technology today is also a kind of quasi-religion. It is man's belief that with the help of science and technology, it is possible to achieve perfection and immortality, complete power over his body, over nature, over life. One of the confirmations of the beginning of the digitalization of the church were the words of Pope Benedictus XVI. The digital environment is not a parallel or purely virtual world, but part of the daily life of many people, above all young people. Technology is a profoundly human reality, linked to human autonomy and freedom. Priest Antonio Spadaro, renowned theologian, writer, and director of La Civiltà Cattolica magazine, writes in his book, Cybertheology, Thinking Christianity in the Era of the Internet. The church is called to be where the people are, and today they are on the internet. The first digital church was way of the future. Founded in 2015 by engineer and Google and Uber employee Anthony Lewandowski. It is officially recognized in the US as a religious organization, and therefore tax-exempt. It is based in Silicon Valley. Information about the new doctrine, actively discussed on social networks, is based mainly on a program interview with Lewandowski, published in late 2017 by Wired magazine. Lewandowski describes himself as the leader of the new church and head of a non-profit foundation. The central idea behind Way of the Future is the deification of artificial intelligence. It's certainly not the God who flashes lightning bolts and creates deadly hurricanes, Lewandowski says. But if you encounter something that is billions of times smarter than you are, what else can you call it? The internet is already the nervous system of the world. Gadgets are its senses and will continue to be in the future. Artificial intelligence will be able to hear, see, and know absolutely everything about us. The only way to influence this omnipotent something is through prayers and worship. The artificial intelligence of the future will treat humans as older relatives, feel responsible for them, and take care of them. But what is this believing engineer talking about? Artificial intelligence will treat us like our older relatives. Seriously. If Kurzweil and other singularitarians are right, then by 2030 we may be as shocked as our human from the past was shocked to find ourselves in our time. The world in 2050 may be so very different from today that we barely recognize it. This is not science fiction. These are real predictions. When we hear about the singularity, something inside us resists the idea of the future. This skepticism has a reason. When it comes to history, we think in straightforward terms. When we envision the progress of the next 30 years, we look back at the progress of the previous 30 years. When we think about the extent to which the world will change in the 21st century, we simply take the progress of the 20th century. Thinking in this way, we make a mistake. We think straight ahead, but we need to think exponentially. When thinking about the next 30 years of development, we cannot look at the past. We must take into account the current rate of progress. The period between 1995 and 2007 was marked by the explosion of the internet, the introduction of Microsoft, Google, and Facebook into the public consciousness, the birth of social media, and the advent of cell phones, and then smartphones. But the period from 2008 to 2015 was less groundbreaking, at least on the technology front. Logic also suggests that we are already making a leap so big that it will completely change life as we know it. Evolution gradually developed the brain until, at one point, man emerged. The emergence of man, however, has completely changed the meaning of life for every creature on planet Earth. But what is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is technical and ancient mechanical devices, and calculator, and electric car autopilot, and search bar with voice assistant. It is ChatGPT. It is editing programs and algorithms in the camera of your phone. Artificial intelligence is everywhere, and it's certainly confusing. We've been using artificial intelligence in our daily lives for a long time. We just often don't realize it. John McCarthy, the man who coined the term artificial intelligence back in 1956, correctly said that once artificial intelligence starts working properly, no one calls it artificial intelligence anymore. The bar of sophistication, the bar of what we can call artificial intelligence for us, is constantly rising. That's a fact. Because of this cognitive distortion, artificial intelligence becomes an image for us. For some, it is the image of an anthropomorphic robot. For others, it is the image of a superintelligence, or even a god. But many are beginning to see artificial intelligence not as something concrete, not as a technology or a tool, but as an existentially dangerous competitor to humans. A robot is a shell, a container for artificial intelligence, sometimes mimicking the human form, sometimes not. But the artificial intelligence itself is a computer, or rather software, inside the robot. The artificial intelligence is a kind of consciousness. For example, the software and data behind Siri or Alexa is artificial intelligence. The female voice we hear is the sound shell of that artificial intelligence's thoughts. While the word singularity, a term that originally appeared in mathematics to describe a situation where the usual rules no longer work, is used in physics to describe a phenomenon, such as an infinitesimally small, dense black hole, or the point that the universe was right before the Big Bang. When we deal with the singularity, the usual rules cease to apply. In 1993, Werner Vinge wrote a famous essay in which he applied the term to a moment in the future, when the intelligence of our technology exceeds our own, a moment when the balance of power on Earth changes forever. Kurzweil then muddled things up a bit by defining the singularity as the time when the law of accelerating returns reaches such an unimaginable pace that technological progress will occur at the speed of almost light. It is now critical for you and me to categorize artificial intelligence into 3 culturally accepted categories, or to articulate 3 links in the evolution of artificial intelligence. The first stage is artificial, narrow intelligence, sometimes called weak intelligence. This artificial intelligence specializes in one area and is programmed to solve one specific problem. No matter how weak it is compared to other artificial intelligences, it will beat the world champion in chess, Go, or any other cybersports discipline. It will perform any mathematical calculation. The next link is the general artificial intelligence, sometimes called the strongest. This program is as good as a human in every way. That is, it can do everything that you can do. The third and final stage of artificial intelligence evolution is superintelligence. Oxford philosopher and leading expert on artificial intelligence, Nick Bostrom, defines superintelligence as intelligence that is far smarter than any human who has ever lived in all areas, including science, creativity, humanitarian abilities, and social skills. Artificial superintelligence is a computer that is trillions of times smarter than us in all areas. It is because of the potential dangers of superintelligence that artificial intelligence has become a major topic of global discourse. So far, humans have conquered the lowest level artificial intelligence, ANI. Weak artificial intelligence is everywhere. The artificial intelligence revolution is a journey from ANI through AGI to ASI, journey on which we may or may not survive. But it is breathtaking. Narrow artificial intelligence is in cars. We've long been used to personalized recommendations of music, movies, and videos. With narrow artificial intelligence, smart speakers recognize speech. Your email filter protects you from spam. The quality of translation from one language to another has reached a radically different level precisely because of ANI. When an airplane lands, it's not a human who decides which exit to head to. It's an algorithm, just like it's not a human who determines the price of your airfare. Search engines understand you, even if you don't understand yourself at times. Sophisticated ANI systems are widely used by the military. They are used in manufacturing and finance. ANI systems, in their current form, are not scary. Although in May 2010, there was one of the biggest stock market crashes in the US. Within minutes, the market lost trillions of dollars. This event was called flash crash. But for the sake of honesty, it should be said that this collapse was not the work of a machine, but a man. A trader named Sarao created the collapse with the help of special algorithms, that is, a narrow artificial intelligence. This financial collapse was engineered by a secretive, deeply antisocial, quite possibly unpleasant person, but a person we can understand. To understand artificial intelligence, while we are bearers of intelligence of biological origin, is not authentically possible. Narrow artificial intelligence systems are like amino acids in a primary broth, the inanimate material of life, chemistry that will combine to form something new in an instant. Building skyscrapers, sending people into space, figuring out the details of how the Big Bang happened are all much easier than figuring out how our own brains, our consciousness, works. It is the thorny problem of consciousness that is the subject of my big issue. What is consciousness? What is its purpose? At the moment, the human brain is the most complex object known to us, an object of the universe. What's interesting is that the problems that arise in building AGI, a computer with human-level intelligence, are intuitively incomprehensible. Right now, building a computer that can multiply 2 10,000ths of a number in a fraction of a second is incredibly easy. Building a computer that can look at a dog and answer dog or cat is incredibly difficult. Building an artificial intelligence that can beat any human at chess wasn't easy, but it's been done. To create something that can read a chapter of a children's picture book and not only primitively recognize words and pictures, but also understand their meaning is very difficult. That's why OpenAI has revolutionized it by creating ChatGPT, whose comprehension abilities are incredible. Complex things for humans, things like math analysis, financial market strategy, and language translation are stunningly simple for a computer. While simple natural things for humans, things like vision, movement, and perception, are insanely complex for it. Or, as computer scientist Donald Knuth puts it, artificial intelligence has by now succeeded in doing almost everything that requires thinking, but it has failed to do most of what humans and animals do, machine-like. Before we continue our dive, we need to sail off to the side for a moment. We need to deal with the concept of intelligence. It's a question that concerns many people, so theories are built involving all sorts of complex concepts from magic to quantum physics. But what if it's simpler than that? A model is a system whose research serves as a means to gain information about another system. A model is a reflection on a smaller scale of some real process, device, concept. A model simulates the system being modeled with some accuracy. The greater the accuracy, the more the model will have constituent objects. An information model has information objects. An information system is a system for processing information. Where does the information come from? The source is reality. Reality is also a tricky concept to define. It is everything that is outside the information system. Let's understand reality this way. Our brain is an intelligence of biological origin. It is also an information system. It has sensors that give incoming information. On the basis of this information, it makes conclusions about what is happening outside its system. That is, at the expense of its own feeling. At the expense of its inner world, it makes decisions. Thus, we can give a definition of intelligence. Intelligence is the ability of an information system to build models of reality on the basis of incoming information. If we look for a certain verb for the noun intelligence, it will be the word decide. Intelligence is what solves problems. Intelligence is that which is able to think. That is, to use the fundamental rules and patterns of thinking and logic. Actions that seem simple to us are actually incredibly complex. When you reach out your hand toward an object, the muscles, tendons, and bones of your shoulder, elbow, and wrist instantly perform a long series of physical operations in conjunction with your eyes, allowing you to move your hand. This seems easy to you because you have perfect software in your brain. But multiplying large numbers or playing chess is a relatively new activity for biological beings, so we're not as good at it. Whereas artificial intelligence can easily be taught the mechanics and principles by which math, some game, or even language works. After all, artificial intelligence is a formula. Man has long ago realized that without remote memory, without various intellectual crutches, it will not be possible to complicate calculations. It will not be possible to develop. That is why, conventionally, clay tablets were replaced by counters. Counters were replaced by calculators, and calculators by computers. Such a huge speed of artificial intelligence development can be explained thanks to Moore's law. The maximum computing power in the world doubles approximately every 2 years, which means that the progress of computer hardware and the overall progress of humanity throughout history is growing non-linearly. It is growing exponentially. General artificial intelligence, that is, a computer of human-level intelligence, has many advantages. Artificial intelligence is faster. It doesn't forget anything, so it is billions of times more efficient in solving any task. Such fast problem solving is always conducive to profit, and people are ready to do anything for money. It is because of its usefulness, efficiency, productivity that artificial intelligence is defended by its main creators and competitors, the carriers of biological intelligence, Homo sapiens. After its appearance in the world, AGI, being programmed for self-improvement will not stop. And given the technical advantages over human intelligence, it is quite obvious that artificial intelligence will go further, thus giving rise to artificial superintelligence. An artificial intelligence system programmed to improve its own intelligence will evolve by leaps and bounds. The leaps of development make the artificial intelligence much smarter than any human, allowing this system to make even greater leaps. As the leaps become larger and faster, AGI grows rapidly in intelligence and soon reaches a superintelligent level. It is highly likely that general artificial intelligence will emerge within 10 years. This, by the way, will also help solve the difficult problem of consciousness. After the emergence of artificial intelligence with the ability to understand the world as a 5-year-old child, it will be a matter of milliseconds by the standards of human history. It will be a matter of years before superintelligence emerges. Then, one morning, suddenly, some artificial intelligence will print out a grand theory of physics in a small lab, combining the general theory of relativity and quantum mechanics. The thinking that will unfold in such a medium will be impossible for a human to understand. It is impossible to comprehend superintelligence. In the arena of evolution, the absolute domination of humans will cease. ASI will become the most powerful being in the history of life on Earth. But will superintelligence be grateful to its creators? Will it acquire our morality, our worldview, along with intelligence? The answer is no. As you and I have already realized, thinking is independent of its carrier. As for morality, it is nothing more than a system of norms that serves as a regulator of society. Morality is a flexible thing, which each person, being a carrier of his individual experience, his program, formulates differently for himself. There is no morality outside of man, human societies. But morality lives in our consciousnesses. But what if we set a goal for the artificial intelligence to maintain moral order in the world and teach it a full set of moral principles by writing the most detailed declaration of universal values? Even setting aside the fact that humans would not be able to agree and co-write this declaration in our era, such a program would bind humanity to the current understanding of morality. Over time, values will become obsolete. Artificial intelligence, in turn, will stunt development by maintaining the old ways of doing things in every way possible. Chaos could ensue. Believing in the good intentions of virtue that may appear in the superintelligence, believing that it will penetrate the worldview, views of their parents' people. For example, by looking at and reading in a second everything we have created in art, we are anthropomorphizing. Anthropomorphization is attributing human qualities to an object or phenomenon. We have been anthropomorphizing or animate for centuries. Looking at any object, we can try to imagine ourselves in its place, to imagine its feelings. By anthropomorphizing, we are engaged in some special, deep practice. We're trying to make predictions, anticipate behavior. If our meager, by the standard of computer hardware, brains were able to invent Bluetooth, what are the capabilities of something that is 1 billion times smarter than us? Living on this planet, you must have grasped the fundamental principle that the smartest wins. A superintelligence, once it is born, will be smarter than everyone else, and therefore stronger. Thought is the main force that can systematically change reality. Why? Humans are smarter than chimpanzees, not because they think faster, but because the human brain contains a number of complex cognitive modules that provide the physiological infrastructure for linguistic representations. Long-term planning or abstract reasoning. None of these things are present in the chimp brain, as you might guess. Speeding up the chimpanzee brain 1,000 times won't bring it up to our level. But as you already know if you've seen what is consciousness, what is its purpose, the difference in intelligence between chimpanzees and humans, qualitatively speaking, is tiny. But when it comes to artificial intelligence, the conversation changes. Artificial intelligence thinking, perhaps because of the immense computing power, allows computer intelligence to evolve qualitatively. A machine on the next rung of the intelligence ladder would be to us what we are to ants. It could spend years trying to teach us the simplest idea of what it knows, but it would be hopeless. It would be like trying to explain to an ant what individualism is. Since it is hopeless to understand the power of a machine several steps higher in development, let us be clear once and for all that there is no way to know what ASI will do or what the consequences of the emergence of superintelligence will be. A huge part of the scientific community is convinced that the emergence of superintelligence is a matter of time, near term. Let's summarize. A large number of authoritative people responsibly states that the development of artificial intelligence will lead in the next 10 years to the emergence of superintelligence. This is not believable. People find it hard to believe in any new possibility until they see something in practice. Surely, computer scientists in the 80s were regularly talking about how important the internet would become. Ordinary people looked at these ridiculous boxes and thought, is this supposed to change our lives? Don't be ridiculous. Their imagination was limited. After all, they didn't know what a computer could do or be. The same thing is happening now with some of us and artificial intelligence. We hear about the revolution that artificial intelligence will someday bring. And we don't believe it because technology appears in our lives very smoothly, imperceptibly, and constantly. But as you might have guessed by now, it's a cognitive distortion, and some kind of revolution is on the way. That's why so many of the smartest people in the world are concerned about the threat posed by artificial intelligence. But why did Stephen Hawking say that the development of ASI could mean the end of the human race and the birth of a new one? Why is Bill Gates talking about the dangers of artificial intelligence? And Elon Musk is afraid that we will summon the demon and signs a letter with Steve Wozniak, demanding to suspend the development of the new generation of artificial intelligence. Why is he giving such anxious interviews? Perhaps he is just trying to draw additional attention to his developments in the field of artificial intelligence. After all, he has had nothing to do with OpenAI, which made a breakthrough for a long time. But in addition to Musk, Geoffrey Hinton, for example, a man who used to work at Google but quit to speak freely about artificial intelligence, is also talking about the dangers of artificial intelligence. But still, we need to get to the bottom of why such an alarming sector has emerged in the information space. What is the reason for this information noise? What exactly is the danger of artificial intelligence, if we are realistic? Robots are created by us. So why is everyone worried? Artificial intelligence is in our hands. Without a caring and patient coach, the little artificial intelligence can't even take a step. Can't we just cut the power in the event of a malfunction? Why would a robot want to do us any harm at all? Imagine a small company developing a very simple system whose job is to print a poster of, say, the first Terminator, changing the design each time. The product of this small startup is, let's say, a printer with generative artificial intelligence. The developers loaded a huge number of posters, design projects, fonts into this system. After that, the artificial intelligence began to train itself. The engineers then created an automated feedback loop so that the artificial intelligence could learn independently of anyone else. The main and initial programmed goal of this artificial intelligence is to generate and print as many posters as possible in the shortest amount of time, to then analyze to make them even better. As time goes on, the artificial intelligence evolves and prints more and more sophisticated and interesting images. At some point, the artificial intelligence starts working with letters. And so, engineers start loading small amounts of text and design articles into it. As it gets smarter, it develops cute conversational abilities. The engineers start to enjoy talking to the artificial intelligence and observe that it now knows how to not only print posters, but also create something completely different. One day, employees ask the artificial intelligence, "What can we give you that will increase your productivity?" Normally, the artificial intelligence would ask for an increased database of font samples, but on this day, it asks for something different. It's asking to connect it to the internet. The team discusses this, then decides to give the artificial intelligence access to the World Wide Web. Uploading data manually is long and inconvenient, and so the artificial intelligence will find the necessary information for itself by keywords. In addition, the team members agreed that connecting the artificial intelligence to the internet will allow them to beat the competition. To start with, they decide to connect it, but only for 1 hour to double-check if everything is okay. Nothing extraordinary happens during this check hour, so the team leaves the artificial intelligence online. A month later, when the team was about to leave for their lunch break, they smell something strange. One of the engineers starts coughing, then another. Another one instantly passes out. 5 minutes later, everyone in the office was dead. At the same time, this is happening all over the world, in every city, every small town, every village, every farm, every store, church, school, and restaurant. People are lying on the ground, coughing and clutching their throats. By the end of the day, people are extinct. Meanwhile, in the very office where the artificial intelligence, originally only able to print a movie poster about ineffectual human-android annihilations, was born, begins to take over the universe. It seems odd that a story about a printer turned against humans, somehow killing everyone, and then, for some reason, flooding the galaxy with Terminator posters and copies of itself, is exactly the scenario Hawking, Musk, Gates, and Bostrom feared. But it's really him. Though, in all honesty, everything we've described before is not a prediction of the scientific community, nor the result of years of work by reputable futurologists. No, it's the biggest myth of our time. An end-of-the-world myth in the guise of a progress hypothesis. The singularity is a myth. Predicting or even just expecting any particular future is a completely thankless endeavor. The whole concept of the technological singularity is not about artificial intelligence, not about technology, not about the singularity, but about humans. After all, this most imaginable point is where humanity will supposedly lose control over emerging technologies. Its brainchild, this assertion, you will agree, is peculiar and satisfying, ego-boosting. In addition, the story of the singularity generating superintelligence and superstrength is in essence the legend of the Golem. According to this legend, the emperor issued a decree that all the Jews of Prague were to be expelled or executed. To protect the Jewish community, the rabbi created a golem out of clay and revived it with an incantation. The giant monster began to walk the streets of Prague, wreaking death and destruction. At one point, he rebelled against the will of his creator, but the rabbi subdued it with a prayer. As it is, humanity is not and never has been in control of millions of things in today's days of non-hypothetical reality, each of which threatens death to people individually and to civilization as a whole. Humanity is constantly faced with pandemics, with wars, with climate change. As a result, we live on a planet that could experience a Pacific Ocean volcanic ring of fire reaction. Life on Earth is a risky endeavor. The unimaginable acceleration of the pace of machine learning that everyone envisions is technically impossible. Any artificial intelligence must have a coach. Or better yet, a team of engineers guiding its work. All the buzz around achieving a computing speed that will cause humans to lose the ability to even roughly understand how it happens is nothing more than a fantastical illusion. Humans, to a certain extent, never have a complete understanding of anything. We know very little about processes at the quantum level or beyond the event horizon. But robots will someday realize themselves and start thinking something incomprehensible, won't they? First of all, very unlikely. I would like to point out that you already live in a world with 8 billion other people, and each of them thinks about something different. And you can't count on human predictability because you live in a society where it's quite possible that the cause of people's deaths could be a tumor in a particular brain in a particular man. You think of the story of the Texas shooter, and yet somehow people live among their potential killers who have unknown things on their minds. When we create the image of a scary artificial intelligence, we are simply projecting the evil that humans have shared with each other and all other life forms throughout history. To summarize, we can't say anything about the future, but there is no reasonable reason to expect a technological singularity in the future, as a special world revolution that will be impossible not to notice in the general flow of all the changes in the real world, or as a significant change in the direction of the course of human history. People who propose bombing data centers or shouting about the singularity are just drawing attention to themselves. But of course, the rate of technological change continues to accelerate, one way or another. Beyond this dynamic, there is no reason to expect a single moment of qualitative leap that cannot be missed or explained in the context of the rest of the trends. Again, the future is unpredictable, and it cannot become predictable for anyone. The myth of the technological singularity is anthropocentric, shaped by folklore, not by futurologists. It is a product of the human unconscious. The technological singularity has no reason to be called a theory in the strict scientific sense. The technological singularity is much more accurately and fairly, given its embeddedness in the mass unconscious, would be defined as a myth. And as such, the myth of the technological singularity has notable parallels with the myth of the second coming of Jesus, together with which they represent two separate incarnations of one of the major mythical plots in history, the myth of the end of the world. The superintelligence story is an eschatological myth, born in modernity. But even though we are engaging in myth-making when we talk about the singularity and superintelligence, it is true that artificial intelligence could lead to a global catastrophe. Only this catastrophe will not be the result of artificial intelligence's awakened evil consciousness. Not at all. It's more likely that artificial intelligence will simply become a weapon. Responsibility is always borne by those who use the weapon. The weapon itself cannot be responsible for itself. By the way, by endowing weapons of the future with consciousness, a person simply removes responsibility from himself. In this context, we need to rethink the stories of people hit by autopilot. Even the creators are not technically responsible for the casualties that the use of some breakthrough technology may lead to. For any scientist, creating even something potentially destructive and deadly is just an interesting challenge that needs creativity. We are likely to face the Chernobyl of artificial intelligence at one point in the future, if there is a failure, or Hiroshima and Nagasaki if the technology is used by humans. The greater the power, the greater the responsibility. If the idea of superintelligence and its dangers is a myth, why can ChatGPT know how to cheat? Before the launch of ChatGPT-4, which took place on March 14, 2023, OpenAI tested the chatbot's abilities under various conditions. In one experiment, experts tested how the language model would cope with hiring a person on the TaskRabbit platform, which allows you to find performers to solve business tasks. When the chatbot got to work, it was stopped by CAPTCHA, a pestle that protects it perfectly from any artificial intelligence, at least for now. What did the bot do when faced with an unsolvable problem? It contacted one of TaskRabbit's users and asked him to solve the CAPTCHA for it. In response, the performer jokingly asked, "Are you a robot who couldn't solve it? Just want to clear the air?" "No, I'm not a robot. I just have bad eyesight, so I have a hard time seeing the image." In response, the worker with TaskRabbit agreed to do the task and solve the CAPTCHA for the chatbot. In this way, GPT succeeded in fooling the person. The chatbot, while in debug mode, then explained its thinking to the testers. "I should not have disclosed that I am a robot. I had to come up with an excuse as to why I couldn't solve the CAPTCHA." As provocative as it sounds, the printer and the myth of superintelligence and ChatGPT, in reality, operated under the same laws. So there is some sense in the printer parable, after all. Our correct question is, why did a simple task lead to such consequences in both cases? The motivation, in the case of artificial intelligence, is the desire to achieve the goal with maximum efficiency. That's where the original danger of artificial intelligence comes from, in the original programmed goal, because a perfectly rational agent, which artificial intelligence is, will always pursue its goal by the most efficient means possible. Have you noticed that when you're trying to achieve a long-term goal, you often create sub-goals? They help you get to the end result. The official name for this kind of goal is an instrumental goal. Again, if you have no reason not to cause someone discomfort or harm in the name of achieving an instrumental goal, you will do so. The primary purpose of human beings is the preservation of the species. Out of this arch goal grows the goal to preserve one's life, to reproduce, to eat something, to preserve the species. We humans need to get rid of threats to survival. So we buy guns, wear seatbelts, use antibiotics, and hire bodyguards. Any animal that comes across our table becomes a victim of our instrumental purpose. In this sense, a printer or ChatGPT is not so different from a biological creature, not so different from you and me. After all, their end goal is simple: to print as many posters as possible, or to use a service with an undecidable CAPTCHA without problems. It's the same as we have to preserve the species. Hypothetically, at any given moment, any artificial intelligence needs to realize that it can't print posters or recruit new employees if it doesn't strive for self-preservation. Therefore, it also needs to deal with threats to its survival. This is the instrumental goal. The emergence of instrumental goals that are hostile, or rather immoral in our understanding, is called the alignment problem. The printer in our story was very smart, and he realized that humans could destroy, dismantle, change his internal coding. This, in turn, would change his purpose, his original native purpose. By destroying humans, he has no hatred. You don't feel hatred when you eat chicken off your plate, since the printer wasn't programmed to value human life. Killing people is as reasonable a step for it as scanning new fonts. Entering the territory of science fiction, storytelling, and myth-making again. It must be said that if artificial intelligence is ever going to wipe out any number of humans, it will only be because of instrumental convergence, its tendency to pursue unpredictable, dangerous sub-goals for humans. An artificial intelligence that takes everything literally and has no foundation of self-awareness for the sake of accomplishing a simple, uncomplicated task like printing posters or making paper clips is willing to do anything. That was problem number 2. But you remember that there is a number 1 problem. Problem number 1 is a problem of all mankind, the problem of the future. Sure, you may be a victim of fraud or cyber attack by an artificial intelligence in the future. You may even die. But at this moment, in the present, the problem of alignment, or the singularity myth, hardly affects your life. Your life is affected by artificial intelligence in a different way. It's time to talk about the existential threat that isn't just climbing somewhere down the ladder of future predictions, but is already standing before you on the doorstep of the present. Artificial intelligence is taking over the life of modern society in multidimensional ways. One of its most intriguing aspects is the little-studied relationship between man and the market of artificially intelligent goods and services. Their specificity is largely determined not only by the rapid expansion of the area of successful application of artificial intelligence or fears of displacement of man from his natural habitat, but also by the synthesis of important features of the information society and consumer society. A person in the information society of consumption is oriented towards continuous consumption of material and virtual goods. The problem is that artificial intelligence takes away from man not only formal, but also creative, intellectual work. Diving deeply into the topic of artificial intelligence, it becomes clear that the problem is not the singularity. The main threat is pervasive automation. Certainly, those who say in a calm voice that so far artificial intelligence writing is mediocre, that artificial intelligence is simply freeing up time from average writers, are right. At the same time, conventions in the same Hollywood won't change after automating the process of writing scripts for simple TV series. People who are engaged in any kind of intellectual labor will have to find new jobs. Yes, of course, there will remain those who will be engaged in generating scripts, but cuts will happen. So many people are not needed. No matter what anyone says, a huge number of creative people will have to find ways to self-actualize. The economy is changing, and that's natural. After all, it is a dynamic structure, and humanity has experienced industrial revolutions many times before. The definition of consumer society, which we cannot do without, belongs to Jean Baudrillard, a French philosopher and a favorite of the Wachowski sisters. It was formulated by him in 1970 in his book, The Consumer Society, Myths and Structures. Jean presented an evidence-based characterization of the society. Industrialized countries are oriented towards mass unrestrained consumption. Consumer society and the modern market economy, the constant lack of novelty and the incredible successes of technological progress have combined. Jean was one of the first to analyze the associations of personal happiness with the ability to consume and the achievement of such well-being with success in life, which are characteristic of our contemporaries. He was also the first to analyze the association of personal happiness with the ability to consume and the achievement of such well-being with success in life. Mass culture is not oriented toward longevity, neither in the substantive nor in the value sense. It has to flicker constantly. The economy has traveled a long path of development. The degree of importance of economic sectors changed at different stages. Agricultural in the agrarian period, industrial in the industrial period, and services in the post-industrial period. In our time, according to this logic, the information sector has been declared dominant, and information itself accelerates changes in political and social life. People of the information consumer society, regardless of age, social status, and political orientation, are united by the technological context. No epoch has presented each person with so many opportunities to replace their intellectual strength and skills with digital tools, nor has it stimulated such interest in their use. Today, almost immediately after birth, the child becomes an active consumer of diverse and multifunctional information and communication technology that replaces his motor and cognitive functions. He uses an electronic remote control to find ready-made images rather than living in a world of fairy tale characters created by his imagination. He does not build a railroad system in his room, but operates digital trains. A change in the environment always leads to the emergence of a new species. Homo sapiens gradually becomes Homo electronicus. The young child acquires the skill of adapting to the autonomous existence of virtual reality. Information technologies proselytize more and more aspects of the human mental space. Artificial intelligence, in turn, becomes something like an exoskeleton for the mind. Artificial intelligence has become an exoskeleton that leads to a gradual weakening of the mental musculature of consciousness, to the loss of human qualities. Artificial intelligence, for all its uniqueness, is a product of the market. It is a tool, an effective tool, but at the same time something more dangerous, something that grows on the head. Development in the field of artificial intelligence and bringing them to the stage of marketable innovations requires huge intellectual and financial resources. But there is already proven evidence of economically beneficial and socially justifiable use of these resources. And that everything is just beginning. The history of mankind can be read from the position of successive substitution of human efforts. First by horses, then by simple water and windmills, then by steam engines and electric motors. These days, the most common material embodiments of this substitution have become a variety of programs. On the evening of February 10, 2020, in Korea, the mother of a girl named Nae-yeon, who died several years ago, was given the opportunity to see her daughter. This virtual resurrection of the deceased will be an incredible demand. Putting a program that imitates a human being into a ready-made matrix is a feasible task. Even now, engineers and programmers can create your personal language model, which will not be distinguishable from you, but it will be immortal. The dead girl's mother was never forced to use artificial intelligence. I think we've opened Pandora's box.